The Screen Team is here. It's back, and we're ready to do some movie reviews for you this evening. We've got 3 of them for you. We'll be doing Angry Birds a little bit later on this evening. Also, Inherent Vice. But we're going to start things off with Love and Mercy. And to help us out, we've got Jamie and we've got Jerry. Guys, how are we today?
Pretty good, man.
I'm not doing half bad.
You guys look great, man. Love and Mercy.
I did shave today. No,
I just got chauffeured around by my kid.
Yeah.
So, you're not videotaping this go around, are you?
No, not this go around.
I was going to say if my eyes look bloodshot, it's because I got.
Wait, why did I shave? No.
What? I shaved my legs.
I'm sure there's some sort of cameras around somewhere. We'll get you guys.
Big Brother's watching.
Let's talk about Love and Mercy, guys. Are you guys, before we start talking about the movie, are you guys Beach Boys fans at all?
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Huge Beach Boys fan.
Yeah. Brian Wilson, you guys dig the...
I actually read his first autobiography. He's got another one coming out in October, which is going to be a little more legit. The first one, that Eugene Landy guy, who I'm sure we'll talk about, had a lot to do with his first one. I think it was called "Wouldn't It Be Nice?"
Clever title.
Yeah.
So what do we think? What do we think about this movie? This is kind of telling Brian Wilson's story of some of his early days in the Beach Boys, and it also kind of time hops to a time period in the mid to late 1980s where he meets his future wife, and his future wife tries to get him off of control of the one guy you just mentioned.
Yeah, Eugene Landy.
So what did we think about this film? Jamie, what were your initial thoughts?
I really liked it. I had heard about the movie, I guess, when it was being made, and found out who the stars were, and it's like, well, that could be kind of interesting. And I remember kind of filing that one away in my head. It's like, I got to watch this when it comes out. And I was very impressed with it. I'm a big fan of John Cusack and Paul Dano. And the thing about somebody as well known as Cusack playing, the older version, it seemed a little odd because he's John Cusack,
Right.
I mean, he's a great actor, but you kind of don't. For me, I didn't. There was something kind of odd about his performance, I thought, and I guess it's just from watching interviews with Brian Wilson after he had kind of resurfaced and started to let people know about what happened to him and back then. And I don't know. I thought Cusack's performance could have been a little different.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a testament to how well Paul Dano did. I even though he doesn't really, he probably looked more like him, I guess, as a young guy, and maybe that's what I connected with more in this role for him.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you 100%, Jamie. I thought Paul Dano was outstanding.
Yeah.
And I love John Cusack too, man. John Cusack's the man, but it just felt like I was seeing John Cusack as Brian Wilson instead of the other way around, And
I can usually have that kind of disbelief or whatever you want to call it, because you really have to do that with any film that's about an actual person that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So,
Jerry, do you agree with us?
I do, but who are you going to get to play that version of Brian Wilson is the real question, because it's he had went through so much turmoil in the 70s with his drug addiction, laying in bed for a few years. I've seen interviews with Brian Wilson in the 70s when the breakdown had occurred, and then I've seen interviews with him in the 80s when the second go around. What the film didn't really tell all that, it left out to me a really important part, which was the actual breakdown.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like they needed that third version of Brian Wilson. They really did. All in all, I thought it was a good movie, but I thought it just left out way too much, because they're almost expecting the audience to understand the 70s version of Brian Wilson to understand the 80s version of Brian Wilson, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because it almost makes it look like, the Paul Dano version, the younger version, you could see him slipping.
Right.
And they tried to do so a little bit with the hallucinations and things like that. And it almost seems like, well, for 10 years he was just crazy and didn't exist, it's kind of thing.
No.
So
there was a lot. I mean, yeah, he had his couple years in bed or whatever, but he actually did do some TV performances, and there's a whole story in the 70s of Brian Wilson. I mean, that Eugene Landy fellow, the megalomaniac, narcissistic,
was he an actual psychiatrist?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
He was a real psychiatrist. They had gotten him away from Landy once, and then the Beach Boys said, "Oh, we can't handle him. We're taking him back."
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly, that's part of the story, which is not told in that movie. So to me, they expect the audience to maybe know more about Brian Wilson. Maybe it was a film meant specifically for Brian Wilson enthusiasts like myself. Yeah.
That have read the biographies.
I wouldn't expect everyone to understand the movie. So, but getting to the performances, I didn't think John Cusack was a good choice, but at the same time, I understand that they weren't really looking for someone at that point that looked like Brian Wilson. They just wanted someone that kind of maybe could act like Brian Wilson at that time.
Gotcha.
And from what I gathered did you guys watch like the extra scenes and whatnot? Brian and his wife, what's her name? Belinda, I believe was her name, right?
Belinda.
They were really pleased with both actors' portrayal of him.
Cool.
So I don't know. I wish the movie had dove more into the 70s part, because that's where the real craziness that occurred in Brian Wilson's life, or the effects of the earlier abuse from child abuse. And I mean, they really didn't even get into that either, which they almost make it as if all he had was schizophrenia. But I mean, he had severe post-traumatic stress. Severe.
It's amazing watching this movie. I didn't know how bad his dad was. I mean, the Beach Boys' dad, makes Michael Jackson's dad look like, Santa Claus.
Oh, absolutely.
He was a terrible man.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to take over.
No, please,
I've just done a lot of research on Brian Wilson over the years, but I don't want to get too gross, but in that first autobiography, I guess Brian was having stomach troubles at the dinner table, and his dad cleared off the table and made him defecate on the table in front of the family. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's gross, and I hope I'm not, going overboard. I don't think the movie, as bad as it made his dad out to be, probably didn't even tell all of that, from what I gather.
Crazy.
So, but at the same time, in defense of all of that, Brian Wilson did say that a lot of his first autobiography was baloney. So, I mean, although, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
You know what I thought was cool with this movie was the scenes where you see Brian Wilson in the studio.
Yeah,
it almost had like a document, a documentary kind of feel to it. It was like the cameras weren't specifically in position; they were like almost like a fly in a wall kind of feel. And that just had a cool kind of vibe to it.
That was something. Having watched the documentary about the Wrecking Crew, who played the music on a lot of the Beach Boys stuff back then.
Oh yeah,
that was interesting to see how they handled that, because they actually found actors that I thought looked or portrayed those real people again pretty well.
The Hal Blaine character.
Hal Blaine, that guy. If you see footage of Hal Blaine back in the '60s or whatever, he acted like that. Just the way that he thought about Brian Wilson. I mean, I think that may not be verbatim the things he said to Brian Wilson, but he probably said things very, very close to that. Because they respected his talent and his genius, when it came to arrangement and whatnot. So,
the bassist, the female bassist, Carol Kay, she was huge, giver of praise to Brian Wilson.
Mm-hmm. So, Love and Mercy, who's this for? Is it for people who like the Beach Boys? For people who like music? Can someone who's a casual fan, can they go in this and enjoy the film, you think?
Probably so. I think they can, because we're kind of picking on it a little bit for leaving some stuff out that explains his psychosis or whatever. But that's not necessary to tell the story that they're telling in this movie. So I think anybody that just is familiar with the Beach Boys and knows, oh yeah, Brian Wilson, wasn't he the one that was in bed? I mean, even though they didn't go through all of that, I think people would still enjoy the movie. I still enjoyed it, and I need to check out the behind the scenes stuff because I watched it on demand.
Yeah.
So it didn't have any extra stuff. So
Well, I can tell you that the extra scenes, you guys mentioned the cinematography of it. They really wanted they wanted the story to be as if it was coming from Brian Wilson's point of view. So that's probably why there is a lot of that sort of fly on the wall, because they're trying to get you into his visual perspective, even of what's going on, as well as being inside of his head.
Okay. The movie's called Love and Mercy. You can find it on DVD. Coming up after the break, more reviews right here on KWOC.